Recording in progress.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Excuse me. Of the Middlebury Development Review Board. Tonight we'll have one bit of hearing business. First, we need to manage our minutes. And I wonder if any members have a motion on the minutes of November 24th.
I'll move to approve the minutes of November 24th.
Okay. The second?
I'll second.
Jeremy moves and Gary seconds. Are there any corrections to those minutes or discussion? I didn't have any. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
And you're abstaining.
Me as well.
You're abstaining. So we can't carry the minutes tonight. We'll have to push them to the next episode.
Right.
I think it's fine. Yeah, we're too short. Thank you, though. All right, so we'll hold off on that until the next meeting. Thank you. We do have a quorum for the public hearing now. Tonight's public hearing, I just want to run through some procedural items. So when we have a public hearing, particularly one with a lot of public interest, there are a couple things to note. One is that DRB operates as a quasi-judicial board. So procedurally, it's a little different than a planning commission meeting. We typically operate, we take testimony, and I will ask both the applicant and then anyone who wants to make public comment to please, if you can, come up to the chair here so that you speak directly into the owl and the microphone on the table. If you have a mobility issue and can't do that, just please let us know that you need to remain. Although I will tell you that the closer we get to a microphone, the better it is for people who might have an auditory issue somewhere else and want to hear what we have to say tonight, and for the record. The second is that typically, particularly relevant to the public comment section, we don't allow, and it is not productive to have crosstalk. In other words, to have a member of the public ask the applicant or the representative or even a board member, to answer a question. You can certainly ask us questions. It's far better to ask your question or make your point to the board and then allow us to, I promise, we will always redirect them to the applicant if they're relevant questions. The third is that this board is not generally what we're doing is not taking the temperature of the community, although your input is very important. Everyone's input, any stakeholder's input is very important. What we're trying to do is conduct a process of evaluating a proposal, as it's described to us tonight and in the submittal, against various criteria that exist in the zoning. That's really what, if you want to have an impact on this process, that is where you should direct your comments. And if you do choose to testify tonight, and we welcome you to do so, that will be the last section of tonight. First, I'm going to ask the applicant to come and make a presentation and explain and show drawings. I'm then going to give the board an opportunity to ask. We have a big packet, which has also been public, to ask specific questions. And then finally, once the board has had their questions, I'll ask members of the public who wish to speak to come on up and speak, and we will take your comments and questions. Also, JR, the zoning administrator here, may have a few questions that have been entered by people who cannot attend tonight, who they've asked that they be read or entered into the record or asked of the DRB. That being said, anyone who testifies tonight needs to do two things. We need to make sure that you're on the sign-in sheet. Signing in proves that you're here and preserves your rights in any further proceedings on this matter. And the second is you need to take an oath. And I'm going to administer the oath now. Hopefully we can catch everybody who wants to participate in the hearing. Here's the oath, and if you would, please raise your hand and say aye, and hold your hand aloft so that you don't know what I'm going to ask you. Give me $50. Yeah. Just when you raise your hand and say aye, please hold it up a little bit so Jared can see who I'm sure he'll remember every single face.
I recorded too.
The oath is as follows: I hereby swear or affirm that any testimony I give in tonight's hearing will be true and accurate to the best of my knowledge. Please say aye. All right. Thank you. If you see somebody come in who's going to testify and I didn't catch them coming in the room, you can remind me. Point of order. Among the members of the DRB, are there any members who have had ex parte communications they want to declare or have conflicts they wish to declare or that require them to recuse? Hearing none, I will say that our new member, Todd Nebraska, who's awesome, has decided that he's going to recuse tonight. His homeowners association is advocating on behalf of all homeowners, and I thought that was a thoughtful decision that he made. So Todd may be participating in the meeting, but he'll be participating as a citizen, not as a or as a resident, not as a member of the board tonight. All right. That said, tonight's application. Any questions? Tonight's application is file number 2025-028:176-000/001, site plan/PUD amendment, is a request by Middlebury Investors LLC for site plan review of a PUD amendment for the parcels located at 55 Middle Road and identified as parcel 028-176.001 and parcel 028-176.000. The site plan under review proposes a new 35-unit multifamily building and restaurant on the parcel 028-176.001 with proposed parking layout and an existing warehouse use to remain on parcel 028-176.000. Have I missed anything, JR?
Nope.
With that, I will ask the applicant, Middlebury Investors LLC, or their representative, to please introduce yourself and let us know, make your presentation.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for your time, attention, all the hard work. Thank you to JR and Alicia for all of their hard work on this application. I'm Phil Rosenzweig. I am one of the principals of Middlebury Investors LLC, who is the applicant before you with respect to the project on Middle Road at Route 7. Since we were here on a tentative sketch basis to introduce the concept of this project to you all, and since that time we have been working diligently to evolve the project and to improve it. With respect to any member of the community who wanted to have dialogue with us about how they viewed the project and thoughts and comments about how to make it better. We engaged in good faith in those discussions. And we believe that as a result of that collaborative process, we have come to the plan that is before you, for which we are seeking approval this evening, which I respectfully submit is an even better building than that which you saw on tentative sketch. I'd first like, with your indulgence, to introduce my team, if I may. Seated to my right is Andrea Murray, who is here with Ben Allred from Vermont Integrated Architecture. Brent Rakowski from Otter Creek Engineering is here to address the civil engineering aspects of this plan. Andrew Martin is here on behalf of Negley and Chase. Negley and Chase is the construction management company that I have brought into this process to advise on the construction aspects of the plan should it be approved and move forward. And I'd like to introduce you all to our zoning lawyer, Liam Murphy from Burlington, who is representing our interests in this application and in anything that may flow from this application. And if I could just start for a minute, I'd like to call to everybody's attention the evolution of the building and some of the changes, because ultimately, Chairman Hamilton and DRB members, we are in fact here seeking this is a PUD, because it is a PUD that was created in 2018. We need conditional use, and we are seeking a PUD amendment with respect to bringing some setbacks in compliance with current zoning. Elsewise, as I believe is reflected in JR's memorandum, staff memorandum, elsewise this is a project that complies with zoning and could be approved internally administratively. So we are here before you on extremely narrow grounds. But I also deeply welcome the opportunity for the public process so that we can share what we believe is something that we're very proud of and would be a real amenity and an asset to the Middlebury community on a long-term basis. Since some of you and Ms. Eisberg, I understand you didn't have the opportunity to see tentative sketch, so please just indulge me as I just point out the evolution. We have taken the project and we have brought the building back from Route 7, Court Street, to make it compliant with the PUD approved setbacks from Route 7, so that although in days of yore we might have needed a waiver with respect to the setbacks from Route 7, we no longer need that relief. In bringing the building back from Route 7, we were able to reform the structure of the building. We increased the articulation of the facade and the composition of the building. When you see our plans from a top perspective, it's one building, but there is a pass-through in an elbow in the building, which actually helps with the articulation of the building. And that is a result of this moving the project back and the footprint back from Route 7. But that has allowed us to really do some, I think, are wonderful things with respect to the form of the building and its articulation around all sides of it. We have materially changed the unit mix. We have reduced the number of proposed 4-bedroom units materially, and I can actually share with you the numbers. We've increased the 2-bedroom units, we've created 3-bedroom units, and we have halved the number of 4-bedroom units, so that we originally had one 1-bedroom, we still have one 1-bedroom. We had 5 2-bedrooms, we now have 10 2-bedrooms. We had no 3-bedroom units, there are now 11 3-bedroom units. And we had 26 4-bedroom units, now we only have 13 4-bedroom units. This has improved the diversity of the mix of housing, which makes it more available to many different types of users, and I think address some of the concerns regarding having too many 4-bedrooms. We, in the process of dealing with the site, we have added parking within the 4 corners of the site. So we have increased those parking spaces, and we have also sourced and entered into a private agreement with our next door neighbor for 10 additional parking spaces. As overflow parking, we are compliant within the site itself on parking, but we now have 10 additional spots over and above that to help alleviate the concern that there might be the need for some additional parking. We have really emphasized the pedestrian and bicycle-friendly nature and purpose of the building. We have added an internal storage room to the building on the first floor in the immediate vicinity of the entryway. We have added, and I think this is a very material improvement to the overall site, We have added several thousand feet of additional sidewalk internally to make the connectivity for a pedestrian around the site very meaningful and very walkable. We have also completed agreements with respect to the easement that will allow traffic, pedestrian, bicycle, and also car traffic to flow between the Stewart's property, the Dollar Store property, and ours, which can alleviate some of the access at the Middle Road entryway. And we have spent a lot of time on the exterior design of the building to ensure that it very much fits into the character of the area. Those are some of the things that we have done, and again, the result of really dynamic and positive conversations with neighbors and other interested parties who live in Middlebury and who have an interest in seeing this building built, so that so many of the young people who cannot find a home in Middlebury, so many people who work in Middlebury who drive 45 minutes or more to come to their jobs in Middlebury, and so many other folks who are not able to afford a significant single-family house, like some of those further up Middle Road, have a place to live in this wonderful town. So as we have evolved the building, as we have improved it, as we have collaborated with so many members of the community, we have arrived at the place where we are here seeking the amendment to the PUD, the conditional use, and approval of our project so we can move it forward in an expeditious way. We have taken a little more time to come back to you than I had originally thought, because we really wanted to do the hard work that I've just described. And Andrea will take you through some of the meetings and conversations and results of those meetings and conversations with other stakeholders who are very important, I think, to all of you and to our community, many of whom have delivered letters to you indicating their support and approval of our project. So, Andrea, I'm going to hand that off to you, and then perhaps I'll have some additional comments. Happy to answer questions, of course. And again, thank you for your time and attention. I think this is a very important project for the long-term good of this great town.
Great, thank you, Phil. Again, my name is Andrea Murray. I am principal and founder of Vermont Integrated Architecture. We are a Middlebury business. We have been for 15 years. And I'm also a Middlebury resident of nearly 25 years. And I say both professionally and personally, I wholeheartedly support this project. As Phil noted, we're here tonight because the parcels on which the project is planned are a PUD. There are two lots, Lot 1 and Lot 2. Lot 2 is the lot that is closest to Route 7 that has the building, and Lot 1 is the parcel that has Good Point Recycling and the majority of our parking on it. So this PUD requires us to come before the board for conditional use approval. I would say that the PUD predates the current zoning regulations and was created to encourage density on this site, which is exactly what the current zoning regulations actually do for this site as well. So we're seeking an amendment to the PUD to conform with the existing zoning for Lot 1 just along Middle Road. And that means that the setback there, the PUD has a 25-foot setback, and we're requesting the 10-foot setback that is in the current regs be approved as an amendment to the PUD for Lot 1. We're also seeking your interpretation, or I guess I would say your alignment with our interpretation that our building, which is under the 50-foot height requirement, meets the intent of the code as presented with 4 stories. Since we met with you in February, I believe, we have met with a lot of people to discuss this project, to garner feedback. They include the design advisory, the fire chief, the police chief, the director of Middlebury Regional Emergency Services, or the ambulance. We've met with representatives from MUMS, Safe Routes to School. I'm not sure I have the title of that right, Laura, but the Department of Public Works, Addison County Economic Development Corporation, Addison County Regional Planning Association, Tri-Valley Transit, Casella, VTrans, and a number of individuals and interested community members. Based on the feedback received, we have made a lot of changes to the project, as Phil noted a few moments ago. And just to give you a couple of quick metrics to help you out here, the footprint of the building as it sits on the site, has been reduced from about 14,000 square feet to 12,800 square feet. The setback, which had been required, we had been seeking a waiver for 10 feet, is now within the 25-foot required setback. We have gone from...
That's the Route 7 setback?
The Route 7 setback, yes, thank you. We have added pedestrian access and sidewalk, and I'll explain in a moment where that is, but we've gone from 37 square feet of sidewalk to 3,700 square feet of sidewalk to 8,100 square feet of sidewalk. So to really help create a safe pedestrian access around and through this project. We have gone from 45 parking spaces alone on the site to 48 on the site and 10 adjacent. So that's 58 parking spots in total. We have gone from 32 units to 35 units. But you might say, how can they go to more units and have less area? Well, it's because a lot of those 4-bedroom units were converted to 2 bedrooms or 3-bedroom units. I believe this project is an excellent example of infill development, providing density on an already developed site, which in turn helps to minimize development to our pristine natural areas. I also believe this project has the potential to be a catalyst to help heal the strip mall vibe of this section of our town. I know that change is hard, and this development may not have been everyone's vision for the site, yet I believe it fulfills the vision of the town plan and meets the intent of the zoning code and the needs of our community, all of which are asking for dense development on this site with a housing component. So now I will walk you through the drawing set really kind of quickly, and if you have additional questions, we can certainly go back. We've added an exhibit on top of the one that is in your packet. I'll point it out when we get there, as well as a 3-dimensional animation of the project, so we can share that as well. So I'll start with this drawing that's up here now. This is an engineered drawing, and this is the overall site plan. And what you're seeing on the right, those 2 large gray areas are on lot 1. That is the footprint of the building. And the footprint of the building, as you might be able to tell, and it's easier to see on the architectural plan. Sorry, Brent, but the engineered drawings are maybe not quite as clear, but there's a passage through the building at grade to allow for circulation and engagement with the building, even by folks who don't live in the building. There, on the light gray on the right-hand side shows the extent of the parking on lots 1 and 2. And then you'll see that the main entrance from Middle Road, I just will say that the driveway remains where the current access is, but the curb cuts and the radii there have been expanded and enlarged to make it easier to come in and out. When you come in the driveway, you're able to go behind the Good Point Recycling Building to park, or you can continue straight ahead and access. Maybe the next slide is a better slide to show this. It's very similar. Oops, keep going. Sorry. There you go. Access this additional parking that will be behind the dollar store or dollar market property. So it's right adjacent to the parking on lots 1 and 2 as well. And then there is a continued easement that connects behind $1 Market and into the Stewarts, which was really encouraged and got certainly emergency services to be very excited because they have that added access to be able to go through and come back out onto Route 7 without having to turn around large apparatus or other vehicles. Okay, you could keep going. I'm not going to go through any more of the civil drawings, and we can come back to them. There's one drawing that we may want some details on, and that is the drawing that explains stormwater. But all of the stormwater, I will just say, is being managed on the site. And we can go into details as folks would like. This is the stormwater drawing. It's really pretty. So this drawing right here, I'll just say is a photometric drawing, and it is showing where street lights and bollards and lights that are on the buildings are, and it basically shows very little spillage onto the adjacent sites. All of the fixtures meet the full cutoff dark sky requirements, and those fixtures are they're printed on the drawing there, but they're also in your 11 by 17 packet. So if you'd like to see those or would like to look at the particular photometrics for each individual fixture, we can go into that as well. We can go to the next. So this is the architectural site plan. And again, these are all oriented the same way. This looks a little different, but on the right-hand side is Route 7. At the top of the page is Middle Road. The new development is seen in the yellow and red color. And you can see the entrances to the building are the red arrows. And the red arrow that is closest to the parking area is the main entrance to both the building and for residents and to the restaurant. And it is also right adjacent to the bike lane. We did meet with the design advisory, and when we met with the design advisory, we discussed the landscape a little bit because Chris Thioli has particular expertise in that, and he made some recommendations with respect to trees, and we have incorporated those into the site plan. So the plantings that you see here that are in color are new and proposed plantings, while there are a few trees, round areas that are not colored in, those are existing trees and plantings. So the strategy here is to provide some trees along Middle Road, and those trees are, we had a request from the fire chief to keep those trees about 20 feet, 24 feet or lower, just so that his apparatus can, as if necessary, pull right up on Middle Road and meet the windows on the 3rd and 4th floors of the building. There are also some plantings, a buffer on the Route 7 side of the building, just to create a little bit of additional greenery and green space there. And then you'll notice this angle in the building. It looks here like it's 2 buildings. It's not. It's 1 building and it bridges above, and you'll see some other images as we get further on. But we really thought a lot about the relationship between this building and the dollar market and tried not to create a tunnel here, but to create a really nice walkway. And so, I don't know, JR, if your cursor can go there, but there's a sidewalk there that runs the full length of the building. There you go. And it keeps on going. And it goes all the way to the back of the site. And we are working with Emily at the Department of Public Works so that this can connect to the area behind Hannaford and the new crosswalk that has been created there, so you can cross then over to the bus stop. So we're actually creating sort of an internal circulation corridor here for pedestrians, bikers, kids, that is safe and not right along Middle Road. And by pulling the buildings back, we create place for some additional planting and a little sort of fun relief garden, if you will. If you go to the next page, you can see that we have used a mix of native plantings, and these are all keyed onto the landscape plan. They provide interest and color and habitat for all seasons, and we're pretty excited about that. And we used the guidance that's in the zoning also as we develop these plans. Keep going. So this is the first floor plan, and just so everyone understands the color coding real quick, green are 1 bedrooms, yellow are 2 bedrooms, pink are 3 bedrooms, and blue are 4 bedrooms. And if you were to come in the upper left-hand corner rather here, that's the main entrance to the building. And when you come into the vestibule, you can go left into the restaurant, or you can continue through the second door and you end up in the bike room. And there is bike storage and a bike repair bench. And this room has a lot of glass on it, and you'll see, because we want to celebrate that this community likes to bike, likes to walk, and that we're encouraging healthfulness and recreation. You'll also see probably a little more clearly here the passageway that goes between the 2 buildings on this floor. And you can see that there's access to the main corridors, Corridor A and Corridor B on this level. The next floor plan is, there are 3 pages of this, but they're pretty much all the same. They're floors level 2, 3, and 4. Again, a mix of unit types here. And in this place above where the passageway was is a lobby area or a breather space, a place to meet your friend who is in the adjacent unit, or have a private phone call outside of your home, or just sit and have a cup of coffee. The building has an elevator. It has 2 stairs, one at either end, for egress, but also for access purposes. You can keep going through. These are all the same, all 3 of these ones, or 3 of these floor plans. These are elevation drawings, so these are orthographic flat views of each facade, and we all know from just looking at the floor plan, this is not a flat building, so we will show you some 3-dimensional pictures as well. But this is the Route 7 elevation that you will see, and it has a little bit of glass by the entryway. The next elevation, you can scroll down, this is the Middle Road facade of the building, and the passageway, you could probably point that out, JR, is right there. That goes sort of underneath and through the building. So I'm coming from, maybe I live in South Village and I'm going to Hannaford to buy some groceries, or to Stewart's for a milkshake. I can go right on through there and engage with the building. There's a canopy on the right-hand side, and under that canopy may be some additional seating for restaurant goers. Yeah, we've worked really hard on the facade of the building to help give it streetscape, if you will, and break up and articulate the various components so that it looks like a series of different buildings that are connected. This is the elevation from the parking lot, and you can see sort of the glazed area that would look into the bike room. And then even a little bit further to the left is the restaurant area. And the last one And this is the side that faces the $1 market. You can see the passageway sort of in the center there. And so on the next, you can continue on. There should be, is this the wrong one then?
Yeah, if you could open up the one that.
The new one.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. That's great. So you can go to the next next one. Oops. Nope. Up. There we go. The red one. There we go. That's all right. It's sensitive. So this is a diagram that we have prepared to help people look at the footprint of our building in yellow in comparison to adjacent buildings. Obviously, the largest red footprint there is Hannaford. And then there are some other residential buildings as well in the environ. So number 3 is housing. It is 3-story or 4-story housing, depending on which side of the building you're on. And then number 5, which is all the way to the right, is also multifamily building of a similar scale. And then number 4 across Route 7 is the Marriott. And then all the way number 1 up in the left are the Marble Works. It's even off the page, are the Marble Works residences that are also 4 stories. And so if you scroll down just to those little photos there and images, you can see our building in the center, the Marble Works residences at the left, and this is the South Village, the courtyard, and then the other. And I know, Ben, would you be willing to come up for a second and just explain how we scaled and measured these? Real quick.
So yeah, we.
Ben, would you just say your name for the
My
record?
name is Ben Allred, and this what we did to kind of scale these in comparison. We took a tape measure and measured up to a point along the building that we could reach, and marked that. Brought the photograph in, and then scaled the rest of the building to that measurement, with the overall height of the building scaling proportionate to that measurement as well.
So that if I could just clarify, across those 5 images, there could be a continuous datum where we would say we're looking at the same heights.
Yes,
Thank you.
within a very minor
A little bit of a
margin.
discrepancy in that our building is a flat elevation, so it's absolutely, whereas these photographs there's perspective, so there's a little bit of warping in that. But
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to clarify what you were testifying to. Yeah.
Yeah. And also to speak to the scale of the building, this came today, and I would just like to really quickly read an email which I have sent to JR already from Adam Luigi, the director of the Addison County Regional Planning Commission. And he says he's not able to attend. He says, however, please let them know that the executive director of the Addison County Regional Planning Commission has reviewed the plans, has reviewed VTrans comments regarding the proposal's lack of impact on Route 7, and believes that the building is of a size and scale appropriate to the area and will help supply a significant number of much-needed housing units in an area planned for housing growth. If the DRB would like further comments or has concerns, he's happy to speak with you. Before we get to the 3-dimensional images, I would just like to say 2 other things about our proposed project. The first is this is meant to be a building that for the residential component of it uses no fossil fuels. It is an all-electric building. It is very well insulated and uses durable quality materials, healthy materials. We are still working with the restaurant and not completely sure how that will come out, whether they're going to say we really want to use gas for our stoves, but in general this building right now is focused on and as an all-electric building. Yeah, so we could go to the next slide. So we have created some photoreal renderings of the building in the context. And the only thing that is not accurate about this one is that we removed the bank sign, which would be right where your cursor is, just so you could see it, see the building. So, but Ben actually did go out there. We measured a person right by the front door, and then he brought this building in and scaled it according with the height of that person. So we believe within a small fraction that this is accurate in terms of its scale.
We actually, the person was holding a pole up to the height of the entry.
Okay.
So yeah, so it was to a point on the architecture that we did.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah.
So the person was holding a pole in case that you couldn't hear that. Like we measured that. Okay. So the exterior building materials, we're still exploring what they are, but we know that having some different materials is an approach we'd like to take to help, again, articulate and create interest on the facade. We're committed to using durable materials, materials that you find locally, such as brick, wood, maybe hardy board or some kind of paneled material similar. We'd like this to fit into the context and to be a Vermont building, but also not to be historicized. It's a building of its time and for the future. So this is the view from Route 7, from the sidewalk along Route 7, looking toward $1 Market and Hannaford with our building. Middle Road is the road that white SUV is dragging along. It's an electric SUV, just so you know. So the next one. So this is the view if you're on Middle Road, you're coming from the middle school, and you're just at the driveway. So you could pull into the driveway. You can see the bike room there in the background. And you can see some folks about to go into the entrance of the building. Maybe they're going home, maybe they're going to have a bite to eat. And then the next, this is the view on Route 7. You see the dollar market in the foreground and the building beyond. And we have a video walkthrough. I think you have to open the file then, is that?
It's down there at the bottom there, too, right now.
Oh, there you go. Whoops. If you maximize your screen. There you go. We can do it a couple times if that's helpful. Maybe one more and then.
Sure.
Thank you. So again, our being here is for conditional use review. or approval, hopefully. We believe we are bringing to fruition what was intended by the creation of the PUD back in 2019 and the revised town plan and zoning ordinance. We believe we've provided enough information, but you'll tell us if we haven't, for a robust discussion and hopefully to close the hearing this evening. So we look forward to your questions and comments.
Thank you to the applicant and Tina and Ben for a very comprehensive presentation. So I'd like to, as I said earlier, I'd like to give the board members an opportunity. This has been a big presentation, but to get out there with your questions. Jeremy, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I don't know if it would be best for Brent to come up. I was going to ask how the stormwater was treated on
I
site.
knew that you were going to say that.
Very good. So,
Brett, I'm going to ask you to just come on up.
Yep. Sorry.
You can grab the chair next to Jeremy if you
Yeah,
want.
that's fine. I'll scoot over.
Okay.
No problem. Yep.
Thanks. It's just better for the recording. And
There we go.
Absolutely. My name is Brent Rakowski. I'm a principal engineer at Otter Creek Engineering, working with the design team on this lovely project for Middlebury. And to answer your question, Jeremy, so stormwater from the site. Under an existing condition, as most of you are familiar, this is a pretty much barren site, existing impervious surface that drains uncontrolled off the site to the adjacent wetlands that runs just along the north side of Middle Road North. And so the intent here with this lovely colored picture that Andrea had mentioned is to identify existing, proposed, and expanded impervious surfaces on the site. And the intent here is that we are going to be complying with state stormwater regulations and requirements, which means treatment of expanded impervious surface as well as existing and redeveloped impervious surfaces on the site. So that is accomplished a number of different ways here, but primarily we are collecting rooftop runoff, draining that onto what would be stone diaphragms, stone drip edges, or otherwise could be termed bioretention areas. So there's plantings associated with that. That will accomplish slowing the runoff down before it gets to a closed drainage system. And that closed drainage system will also pick up runoff from the parking lot and direct that to a subsurface storage system. And the intent behind the subsurface storage system is to store the runoff temporarily and release it slowly, where it can then enter a filter system. It's a proprietary filtering system for the site due to the site constraints and the amount of space that is available. This is a subsurface system. It is proprietary and it is an accepted practice from the state of Vermont. It is a predictable maintenance practice, so it is something that's easily maintained. And in terms of long-term capital improvements, it's something that can be programmed in to allow for predictability in terms of stormwater maintenance and costs. So I rambled on a little bit too much, but you talked about stormwater, so that's kind of my deal.
That's what I was asking. Thank you.
so I'll just want to follow up. So have you had preliminary meetings with ANR about the stormwater solution proposed here, or do you just feel confidence in the components are going to survive that process?
I have had preliminary conversations with them, but it's more of just proof of concept, right? It's like this is the intent going forward. Ideally, I think if there were other, there may be other opportunities, but this is in fact probably this is the most efficient and practical way to treat stormwater on the site.
Can you expand on why you said proprietary a couple times? What does that exactly mean?
So proprietary it's a manufactured system. So there's actually two companies that provide this type of system that's approved by the state, and proprietary is you could go with one manufacturer or the other. Okay. So it's just
as opposed to a commodity product that you're just assembling in an assembly. It's a solution.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
no one else is going to go. Oh, go ahead, please.
How will the parking work? Will it be assigned for different uses?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and thank you for it. There is one lease per apartment unit and one assigned designated spot for lease. So one apartment, one assigned spot. It is going to be permit controlled. It is going to be identified by car specificity. So it's not like a tag that can get handed around. It is going to go with the unit to a particular car assigned to that unit, and it will be highly regulated that way. So that if we have 35 units, there will be 35 assigned spaces, period. And then the rest of the spots are generally available to the restaurant. We know Good Point is a very low intensity use, and we have the spots that are available, and we've kind of confirmed what their highest usage numbers are, and it's a very small number. And then we have the 10 overflow spots to pick up any further numbers. And with respect to the restaurant, we have keyed that off of the number of tables that will be available, and followed the code to the letter.
My guess is we'll have a little tag somewhere that says restaurant parking,
Yeah,
it's,
right.
ideally close to the restaurant.
And likewise for the existing commercial use?
For the Good Point recycling, yeah, I think they'll be designated, they will need
Yes,
to be
right.
designated spots.
So I had a question about with the duration of the easement parking on the adjacent parcel that you're relying on, the 10 spaces.
Yes.
Is there a duration on that agreement, or?
So it is a kind of an evergreen renewable agreement that is, between Farhad Khan and me.
Yeah.
And we are working on other solutions for the dollar store property more generally and broadly. So it is, a written, fully executed agreement. But unlike the Lot 1 parking, which is a forever recorded easement, of which I have provided you all a copy, it is a private, non-recorded agreement.
I would also add that we meet the requirement per the zoning on our property. We actually exceed it by 3 spaces. And so the 10 spaces on the adjacent property are just additional sort of good faith. We heard a concern that we were not providing enough parking, and so we've Phil's gone to extra lengths to secure parking on the adjacent site.
And Chairman Hamilton, I guess this is volunteering a little bit of information, but with the new stewards, it has engendered, a lot of conversations between stewards and Farhad as, the owner of the dollar store and the managing member of the ownership LLC for that property, and me. And I'm very proud and happy to say that we are working, very cooperatively. That has resulted in the easement agreement that will allow for the circulation and flow amongst all of our properties. And that ultimately, Chairman Hamilton, is going to be, provided that I am under construction, a recorded instrument.
Okay, thanks.
Bike parking. The 3D model suggested that they were vertical bike parking. Is that the idea?
They're called Mini Moms. It's a Vermont company that, yes, uses vertical, but there will be room, if somebody can't access that, we'll address that.
Okay.
And there's also outside, there will be bike racks outside as well.
Okay. I saw the letter from Casella, but it wasn't clear to me from the plans how trash collection works inside the building and outside the building in terms of
Sure.
dumpster.
So right there is a dumpster enclosure, and there will be dumpsters within that. It'll be a beautiful fence of some sort, probably screened, some kind of a wood fence or structure like that. People will be responsible for taking their own trash, recycling, and compost, and putting it there. In addition, the restaurant as well.
Shared bins with the restaurant.
Yes. Casella is willing to come more often to address that, and their trips will be quick. He said it'll take us less than 3 minutes to, drive in, use our front loader, and clear out. So.
Yeah, it was very important to us to understand how that worked and that nothing would be impeded along the way. And so we worked pretty closely with Casella to make sure that it was in a location and in a manner that they could quickly come in, do their business, and be out quickly. Also aided by this broader circulation amongst, and the ability to just move trucks very easily.
And is there a drain associated with that location?
A storm drain within where the dumpster enclosure is? No, there's not. The intent is that would, any rainfall that falls in or near that dumpster enclosure would just sheet flow over land into the catch basin, adjacent catch basin.
Okay.
Can you clarify your relationship with the adjacent property and how that works? You're going to tear up the parking lot. You're going to put in a drainage system. It's still their property, but you're doing all the work on that. Can you clarify how that relationship is?
Are you talking about, Mr. Wilkes, the lot 2, lot 1?
Yes.
Or right. So, I have a permanent, forever right to all the land that is lot 1 that is outside of the 4 corners of the building. And that is a recorded instrument,
Okay.
A copy of which I have provided to the DRB. And it essentially gives me the right to do exactly what we are doing in perpetuity.
Okay.
Okay, and I did share that with you all. Right? And I guess I'll further expand on that. Whether or not Good Point remains a tenant in that building is more than uncertain. But while they were and are a tenant in that building, that tenancy is honored and respected. If that were to change, then I would be dealing with the entity that owns lot 1 to then take over that building and likely remove it. But right now it is a tenanted building subject to a lease for the building. But again, I'm happy if you review the document if you have any questions about it. But it is, a fully recorded instrument.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had 2 questions. One is, as I look at the site plan, I think I'm seeing the effect of sightline easements on the corners. Can you just on the plan just show us what it is that's limiting? Like I saw the note that I think was from Brent about the angle at the corner. If you could just walk us through the corner on both lot 1 and on lot 2 that we're looking at.
Here, we could do it on this one.
Yeah.
So I think we can do it on this one. Yeah, so what we're looking for is the red line on lot 1. The current zoning regs say a 10-foot setback from the property line is the requirement. The PUD has a 25-foot setback. And I think where it becomes tricky is this is not anything of our own making, but the front yard is 3 sides of this building, or this combined parcel, right? We have front yard, and because of the bend in Middle Road, it's even more front yard, right? And we know that we don't want to put parking in the front yard. and we want to maximize parking on this end of the site. So what this adjustment right there does is it allows us to have the drive, it's not even parking, a little bit closer. It's not all the way to the 10-foot setback, but it is not 25 foot, if that makes sense. It doesn't, it's within the 25. So just on really this angled side, and then the side along Good Point Recycling to the driveway is where we're looking for a little bit of relief there. And I don't see it as out of compliance, because the current, if there were no PUD, it would be in full compliance with the zoning. Current zoning regs, rather.
Yeah, you're asking for the rules and the dimensional standard that would be under the current map if it were MU.
Yes.
Yeah, in that case. And my second question was, I actually don't need right now to look at the cut sheet on any particular fixture, but if you could point out the areas that have pole lighting versus bollard lighting versus building mount.
Sure. If you
Is
could
it
stay
up or
on
down?
our drawing, actually, that one has. So the poles are, that's a pole icon right there. There's a pole there. There's one
That's a
there.
pole icon on that island, on that little peninsula.
And then which ones are the bollards?
They run between the dollar store and Provost Building and up on the middle road side of Good Point.
So there are bollards along the sidewalk between our building and the Dollar Market building. And then there are, you can see there's little smaller,
It's the smaller dot.
the smaller dot at the top of the page as well along the sidewalk. Where those 5 new trees are, there are bollards along there as well. Those are the, yeah, there you go. There's one, there's a bollard right there. And maybe you do need to go to the photometric plan, which should be the next one.
Down or up?
Keep going, there, no,
The other
other way.
direction,
It's 1.2 is the photo. Yeah, there you go.
There, you see there, right there, yeah. So if you zoom in.
And when you say a pole, how tall a pole
Ah.
is the photometric based on?
I can look while we're having this.
Yeah, I don't have that off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I believe it does say in those notes
Does
at
it?
the top of the page.
It's a little bit of a blurry
Right at the
picture
top of the
that we
page.
got.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring the discussion to a halt. I think it's important because it's not in the 3D, and it does affect the sort of character, safety, all kinds of stuff.
To the right, in this, where it says the schedule in the right, it should say in there what the height is. Paul, apologize on this one. We can get you that.
I bet somebody will figure out before the meeting's over.
Yeah,
Thank you.
apologies for that.
That's all right.
But we can certainly find that, and we can also, we can add another fixture if you want it to be lower, or.
That's probably the choice, is that if there's cars around, you can't live with bollards alone, and you got to get it up high. The question is how high and how many.
Right. I think too, you actually, at the taller they are, sometimes it's a little bit gentler and you get less spread off the site and you get fewer hot spots. So, but I don't think these are like the kinds of streetlights you see on a power pole. These are more village streetscape type streetlights. Ben's looking for the information. We'll do our best to get it to you before the end of the night.
I don't think you're talking to the lighting connoisseur board, the LCD. So, I think
our
the
goal is to be
question,
in compliance.
I've heard your testimony that you're going to be in compliance. I think my question is, is as simple as, is this a neighborhood scale light fixture versus a Hannaford scale light fixture?
Yeah. I have the code
And I
here.
don't want to hog all the time. Somebody else has
I
questions,
have a
I'm
few
sure.
more.
Yeah, Jean, please.
The colored site plan drawing, you mentioned the red arrows showed building entrance. So are the the entries on either side of the passage that don't have the red arrows, are those exit only? Is that the idea?
I don't think we've decided yet. I mean, they will have, people who
Key
live in the
fobs.
building will only be the ones who have that access, so they'll have some kind of a key or a key card
Mhm.
that will allow them access inside, in the center there. So it won't be general public
Right.
access.
And the building on the right, the east side, the eastern building, most people are going to enter the lobby, residents, through the lobby, the main lobby.
Mhm.
If you live on the first floor of the building on the right-hand side of the screen, you're likely entering directly. If you live on the second floor of that building, you may take the elevator up from the main lobby. Is that generally how?
Or the stairs.
Or the stairs. Okay, in the lobby, have you identified a location for mail? How does mail package delivery?
So there are mailboxes along the wall. If you zoom in, if you easily zoom in, JR. Yeah, so there are mailboxes right kind of shared there, and keep going, and packages then just below that.
And that vestibule is shared retail and residential?
Right, so the postmaster would have access to, or the postman or woman would have access to the vestibule, be able to put letters, etc., into the bank of mailboxes, and then there are package shelving right there.
Okay. Have you thought about otherwise in terms of property management, maintenance of internal common areas, external spaces?
Yes, so my intention is to not just create this building, but it is to manage it. I am not a flipper. I build and manage my properties. So there will be active local property management who will be responsible on a daily basis for the needs of the building. My experience is it is very important to actively manage buildings like this, because to do so is not a lot of headache on a daily basis, although it's an active role, and things that go unmanaged are always a headache. So there'll be a regular daily active management protocol.
Can I ask on there?
Please.
Okay. You provided a whole bunch of information in the package about correspondence with VTrans and the intersection, the Middle Road Route 7 intersection, traffic impacts based on the additional units. Could you speak in more detail to that about what that whole process is?
Well, so thanks, Chairman, for that question. So in accordance with the section of zoning, what we did is we looked at the uses of the proposed building as well as the uses of the existing Good Point building. And from those uses, we then refer back to a parking calculation guidance document that is, I'm going to say AASHTO, and I may misspeak on that. We use the most latest standard for determining trip counts. And from that is then derived the number of vehicle trips per day, either morning, evening, peak hour. And because of where we are located along Route 7, that information was shared with VTrans. And as you may know, VTrans has a much more robust data set based upon the studies that were done along the Route 7 corridor on Court Street for signalization and timing. And I made contact with the district engineer, supplied them with the numbers that I came up with. They then responded and said, well, we have more current values, and our values were essentially not much different than what they calculated that to be, which were more or less de minimis. They felt their opinion of the increase in traffic was minimal in their opinion. So, and that should have been, that I believe was provided.
Yep, that's, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding
Yep.
the emails correctly. Thank you.
Jeremy, we also confirmed that both with Police Chief Covey to see if he had concerns about traffic, and he did not. And we also, as Adam Luigi mentioned in his letter, he reviewed the V-Trans data as well, and he did not have concerns with traffic.
Thank you.
There's some clarifying questions about MEP. One is the restaurant has how many seats from a permit standpoint, or you don't know yet?
It's an occupancy of 25.
25. Okay. And if it has a hood, the hood will go straight up through a shaft.
I don't think. Yes, I believe that's the plan.
And then the second thing is I'm just looking at the plan, and when I see the thickened wall between each unit with, that's a mechanical space with a access to the outside, right? That thickened wall that shows up.
In the units themselves,
Yeah, that
those
thing.
little areas are those. We're using something called an Epica all-in-one unit for each of the apartments, and the Epica unit is a heat pump, and so it does heating and cooling and ventilation. It is all self-contained, and there is no outdoor unit, which is why these units are shown kind of on the perimeter of the building, just to minimize ductwork and to have access to fresh.
They vent directly out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. I saw a little arrow. I was understanding it.
And the thick walls in between the two units are for acoustics, and they're demising walls, they're fire separation walls.
And the natural conclusion from that is there are no large rooftop units.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was getting at. I can expect a vent of some size between each of those bedrooms on the facade that is at a small scale, not something vertical except for the kitchen, potentially.
Correct.
Is that fair to say?
There may be a small rooftop unit. It will be fully screened behind a parapet that you won't see, and that at one of the parapets that's already shown on the drawing. That would be a unit for corridor, for example. We're trying not to even have that, but if we have to.
I did read your minutes from the architectural, or from the design advisory, but could you summarize what you came away from that in terms of exterior materials? Like, what did they make recommendations to you about? You said that you had introduced a more of a variety. You're thinking about sort of locality or local suitability. Was that part of your DAC?
I think some of the discussion was really talking about articulation of the facade and some treatments that would help it read less as one giant building and a little bit more as a series of smaller connected buildings. As always, looking to try and design a building so that it always looks good, right? Like it feels like it's being taken care of. So using quality materials or materials that don't require a lot of maintenance, not putting wood clapboard everywhere that you have to paint frequently, things like that, trying to make sure. So there was some conversation around just assurance that this building in this prominent corner is going to look good and be well maintained. I can't remember all of the rest of the meeting.
I couldn't hear
I
that.
can't remember all of the other things that were in those minutes, but happy to go back through.
No, I read it. I just couldn't remember on that particular topic. Any other comments from the board? You'll have another chance, I suppose. So thank you to the applicants. I would like to ask, JR, do you have any points that you've got that you want to get out there right now, or do you want to give public comment anyway.
Publix, I don't have anything to add.
Great, thank you. Thank you. I'll ask members of the public if you have any comment on tonight's project or questions. You can direct them to the board, and we'll redirect. Do you need to take a minute here? Or longer. Okay. Just before we transition, just for folks who need a break, we'll just take a 4 or 5 minute break, if that's okay. Thank you. So we thought probably think it's perfect before we continue. The next deal here. 20 seconds. We can try to get through it and then no. When we see the sheet, is that I'll ask him. So the question is, it's 8:15. I'm famous for making people stay until 9:15 or 9:30 when it gets.
She's
Thank you, everybody. We're back in session. Are we recording?
Should be.
Yeah? Okay. Thank you, everyone. We're back in session. I'd like to begin the public comment session. If you would, in an orderly fashion, please come up and be sure to identify yourself. I will ask everyone, there are a lot of people who might want to speak tonight. I would appreciate it if you could keep it to 2 or 3 minutes. And I'd also appreciate it, and I say this sincerely, that this board does not necessarily respond to the number of people who say the thing. We are listening to what you say and your thought about how this does or doesn't comply with what the town wants and has stated in its zoning. So if you hear somebody saying the absolute perfect version of what you wanted to say, you do not need to get up and say it again. I promise you. Thank you. Please come on up and introduce yourself if you'd like to speak.
I'll get first if I don't mind. My name is Sandy Bemis. I live at 92 Southfields Road.
Sandy, you're gonna have to talk louder.
Okay, are these microphones?
They do work, yeah.
I heard that people back there can't hear very well either, so I'll talk loudly.
Yeah, you have to try to be loud enough like Chairman Hamilton.
Sometimes I can't hear you.
Oh, all right.
Some of you may already know that I have many reservations about this apartment building. But I assure you that my objection is related to its size and scale, not that it will house people, because I think we all know that that is needed. I worry that what it'll bring to our town, and if you only remember one thing from my talk, please let it be the following. Let them build it on an appropriate size of ground, not on this small corner lot where people have to fight over parking spaces. Can you imagine having to legislate that I can park there but you can't, even though you rent the apartment? I realized many months ago that our town was not paying attention, and they didn't know that this big gigantic building was coming if we didn't oppose it. So I tried to inform others, and I still find people that when I show them a picture of that, they are shocked. Just the other night somebody said, not that. And I said, yes, that. After a delay of many months, we now have a new and revised plan. Not smaller and more appropriate for the size of the lot, just different. And more apartments and 4 stories. We have a changed plan for this building, but I think it is a town-changing plan. A hearing like this is designed for the community to have input. And we are here to help you see how we think it will change the town in a negative way. And the precedent it will set might bring more buildings like that. Does this building keep the charm of the town as the planners have hoped for and worked hard to preserve through the years? Or does it look like a huge industrial building on the way to Burlington? That's what it reminds me of. I think each of you can answer that question when you see the printed plans. The designers did take the suggestions from the design people and they changed things before presenting the plans again. There are 10 more parking spaces with a very short lease agreement. What happens when all the many who might want to rent are told that they have to walk or ride their bikes? A bike room, that's fine in the summer, but when we have weather like we've had and have tonight, are people going to ride to work instead of have a car? I very much doubt it. They created the photo simulation, which we were anxious to see because we thought it might help us visualize that. It only helps us see how big it is and how inappropriate it is for that corner. 7/10 of an acre to put 35 apartments and possibly 100 people on 7/10 of an acre? That seems impossible. I also think that those pictures are a little misleading. They look like mature trees to me, and you know they're not going to be. It looks taller, wider, and nothing like the architecture of Middlebury in other places. We've created this poster with pictures of appropriate buildings around town as compared to the view that we're going to get when we have that building, if we do. There's not much room for landscaping, and I think that's one of the things that people will look for in a building of that size. If it was more appropriately put, there'd be room for landscaping. We don't also see the amount of asphalt. Every square inch of that property and the parking lot will be covered with asphalt. Don't we value those things anymore? Clear spaces, ground, grass, green spaces. The other thing there's no picture of when you see those drawings and photo simulations are the traffic problems. They were mentioning and bringing up the fact that the Stewart store has now cut a passageway, an easement through the back. Do you know that that's the same road that all the cars that are going to park for that apartment are going to use in and out? They've already started using that back exit from the Stewart store, using Mr. Khan's driveway to get to the middle road. Now they're going to come through the parking area and the Greenpoint Electric building parking area. They're going to have a narrow passageway there to cut through both ways to the Stewart store to get onto Middle Road. Because there's no way to go north from the Stewart store, from the Stewart store safely. Going across 2 southbound lanes and a double yellow line, it's impossible. So that was a smart easement to put in, but when they put it in and allowed it, there was no talk of a 4-story apartment building on that very corner lot. They didn't know that that was coming, and now here we have it. when you look at the traffic problem that creates, I can understand why that easement is there. But it doesn't solve traffic problems, it only creates more. Delivery trucks have only one way in and out to load that restaurant up with what they need. Garbage trucks have one way in and out. It's the same road that all the cars are going to use that are cutting to the back of the storage store. Renters have only one way in and out of the property. It really sounds dangerous to me, and it should be to you too. When that easement was granted, they did not foresee what was coming or possibly coming. And I wonder if that easement would be given today, knowing what we know about this proposal. Early on, when it was first brought before you, a traffic study was called for and talked about. Now is when we need a traffic study, not in the summer when there's no school traffic, when there's no Stewart store, there wasn't a Stewart store that even existed. We need it when the times are busy. They talked about the timing of the Middle Road light. That would solve a lot of the problem. That's not the only solution to control traffic, because there's many neighborhoods to the back that use Middle Road. It's already a nightmare at school time, both early morning and afternoon. Middlebury residents know to avoid that corner, because at 3 o'clock to about 4:30, you can't get there. You can hardly get past the traffic lights.
Ms. Davis, I'm just going to ask you to wrap it up, take over the people.
My last page. One question I want to ask, because I don't understand this. Do we want housing at any cost, or do we want affordable housing? That's not going to be affordable housing. That's going to be housing. And I don't think it's appropriate for that corner. I ask you to have the foresight to not allow it on this busy, inappropriate corner. But I must commend you for sitting and listening and making decisions for the town. But I hope you all realize that the decision you make on that is going to be a decision forever, because it's hard to take down a building that big. So I yield the floor to the next speaker. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask everybody, please, not to react or clap. I appreciate it. You can do a step for the next person.
There's not really enough room for both of these, so this is just basically showing the uses now of Middle Road. My name is Pam Spadafora, and I live, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm an abutting neighbor on Cottage Lane, so I'm one of the developments that will be closest to this new proposal. I'm finding it a little hard to believe that the addition of a 35-unit apartment building and a restaurant is not going to generate a lot of additional traffic. The list, as you see up there, shows the vehicles that currently use Middle Road on a regular basis. The middle school, 12 buses twice a day, 65 of faculty and staff twice a day, 394 students, many driven by parents twice a day, with quite a few walking and biking. During athletic events for the moms and the high school, many cars line the streets right now in overflow parking to attend events. The residents of Otter Creek, buses, staff, their own cars, many times with emergency vehicles. You have Southridge, Fields Road, Cottage Lane, orthodontist office, Citizens Bank, the rec center on Creek Road, Tri-Valley Transit with their buses, staff, and volunteer drivers. all of these end up feeding, going through Lacrosse Drive or coming and feeding onto Middle Road or using Middle Road. The traffic light at Middle Road is the reason so many cars go through here many times a day. An excerpt from an email from the chief of police back on 5/9/25. This was at the time when the proposed Stewart's was being proposed, before the apartment buildings. He fully supported the plan to eliminate the curb cut in front of Pond Store, thus eliminating the uncontrolled access to Court Street Extension. This section of the roadway is particularly hazardous due to volume, road design, and parking lot entrances. I wonder what his opinion of the volume and danger to Middle Road might be when the cars from Stewart's discover the back exit and the access road, if both are still going to be in use. We need a professional traffic study done now that Stewart's is fully operational. Now, we're looking at as many as maybe 100 plus people going back and forth. Looking at the numbers from a previous AM and PM trip generator completed before the apartment and restaurant, it doesn't appear that they considered that the new Stewart's would be that lunch hotspot that it's become. It's not an AM and PM problem. It's an all-day problem. But the place is nuts during the day. It's hard navigating through there. And now we're going to have them coming through this access road and the back road, coming onto Middle Road. So perhaps now is the time for a more accurate traffic study. We have an additional traffic problem now with the deep ditch that's on the south side of Middle Road that has no markings. Dangerous for traffic, pedestrians, cyclists. I have just a few questions that I'd like to pose to you. If renters choose public transportation, does the bus stop on Middle Road? Can it safely park on the access road to let riders on and off? Where would this bus stop for riders? Will pedestrians be able to cross safely at Middle Road or even across the access cut? How are snowplows and emergency vehicles going to be maneuvering in and out of the parking area when vehicles are parked there? So, many unanswered questions, and I'm wondering if we're trading one problem for another. More housing is a vital concern, but we have to believe there's a more appropriate location. No one is interested in stopping development that's needed in our town, but the concerns regarding a building of this size and scope on this small and less than ideal location are valid. We respectfully ask that this board seriously consider the concerns addressed tonight and hope that this is not just a formality with a predetermined outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Sure. Yeah. I just want to make sure that everyone is succinct as possible so that they so we get as many people able to.
Everybody knows I'm brief. Good evening, I'm Hudson Tilford. I live at 382 Chapman Park. And this project is not going to impact me on a daily basis. But somehow I feel compelled to speak in opposition. I ask myself many times, why is this important to me? Why do I feel so opposed? It's not in my backyard, but it's in my town. This project makes no sense to me. So you cut the number of apartments down from 120 plus to 106. And I've still got a restaurant, but you're going to have multi-size families in there with multi-problems to go with it because you start mixing different lifestyles up will keep the police department in business. When you have families that have two working people or 4 young people in it, 1 car apiece ain't gonna make it. It's just not enough. There are gonna be roads on 3 sides. One side of the building would face Route 7, one would face Middle Road, and then there's gonna be a cut through there. And I think having children living in that building with the roads on 3 sides and a restaurant on the ground floor seems like a tragic accident waiting to happen. And as a veteran of one of the hippies in the development, I can tell you college kids and working families do not mix well. I'm told that we need more housing in Middlebury. We do. I simply feel that this project is trying to put 5 pounds in a 1 pound bag. A project on this site on a smaller scale, which is the developer says is not economical, or this project in a less traveled location could be an asset to the town. This project on this site is not. That dog don't hunt.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Lance Phelps. I'm here with my wife Lynn. Some of you know me, some of you may know of me, and for those of you who don't know either, we've been in Middlebury 50 years, and I ran a civil engineering business here for 40 of those years. In addition, an important element I think in our personal history is that for 15 years we owned the stone mill in Frog Hollow, which still is a mixed-use building, and we've got a fair amount of experience dealing with mixed uses and parking.
Yes, we really can't hear you. We keep feeling. We're having trouble hearing you.
Okay, I'll try to speak up a little louder. So that's the background. I submitted a memorandum that I think JR hopefully is distributed to all of you. I won't go into all the details at the same time. I had 4 points to cover. I'd like to focus on 2. The first is what I'll call occupancy that relates very directly to the parking. So the 35 apartments result in 106 bedrooms. And assuming an average occupancy per bedroom of 1.5 people, that's about 159 people. Could be 150, it could be 145, it could be 170, but it's in that range. If 80% of them are adults, which I think is on the low side, but if it is, that's about 127 adults, and if 75% of those have cars, that's 95 cars. So that's a good deal more than the applicant has provided for on the site. Speak about the restaurant for a second. The application cites that they require 8 spaces, but there's no allowance for takeout customers, which is stated as being one of the options for that restaurant. There's no allowance for staff parking. There's no allowance for people who might be seated outdoors. So I would at least throw in another 8 if I were making a reasonable estimate for a restaurant. And to be honest about it, a restaurant that only has 16 parking spaces is probably not going to. If they only need 16, they're probably not doing that well. In the stone mill in our day, there was a good restaurant there, a good restaurant with about 35 seats, and the 20-space parking lot was overflowing most nights they were in business. Good for recycling. 5 spaces are appropriate most of the time. The other day I drove by, there were 8 cars there. But I'm not going to try and mess with that. In summary, the applicant has a total of 58 spaces, 48 of which are very secure. The estimates I've just thrown together would suggest that they need about twice that, about 116. So there's a pretty serious deficiency in available parking. There's a statement in the application on page 6 that I just can't help but not to share with you. So it says the project plans for 48 total parking spaces on site to be located to the southwest of the new building on Lot 1, thereby increasing the opportunity for shared parking and access to adjacent parcels. Now, I don't understand where the opportunity comes in for the neighbors. The dollar store, the Stewart shop, and the Hannaford's Plaza, I don't think are gonna see this situation as a wonderful opportunity. A few other miscellaneous comments regarding parking. The 10 spaces in front of Good Point, I think I had to get my microscope out to really read that, but those are compact car spaces, and the best that I can tell from scaling, they seem to be about 16 feet deep. And 16 feet deep doesn't work too well for the, pickup trucks and SUVs that might need to use them. So, and the town standard is 20 feet deep. So, do you accept 16 as being okay, and the standard is 20? And do they get counted in as full valid parking spaces? I don't have the answer to that, but I just want you all to be aware that 10 of those are not full depth. So, and back to restaurants again. Restaurants and retail and residential, which is what we dealt with at the mill, ended up being nothing but a nightmare for everybody involved. The retail people were upset because the restaurant customers were taking spaces from them. The residents were upset because they didn't have a place to park for their apartment. I mean, we didn't have tags as they're proposing here, but we did have 20 spaces for one much smaller building. And the other thing is that a lot of people will not obey a sign that says reserved for. If they need a space and they're gonna go see their buddy in apartment 12F or whatever, they're gonna go up into that space. Not everybody, but a good share. So then that creates a problem because then apartment 12F guy shows up and somebody's in his space and what's he gonna do? Call the police? I don't know. It's a headache. And the last comment I'm gonna make is that if this project were in the CBD as the Stone Mill is, there is public parking available in short vicinity, short walking distance to most of the buildings in the central business district. There is no public parking nearby. The closest is the gym, and those spaces are used almost all the time. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Brian.
My name is Catherine Suzanne Stone. I go by Suzanne. I'm sorry it's confusing. I want to be clear that there are two lots, and the lot 2 is where the apartment building is, and lot 1 is where the parking is around that green building. And the total amount of space is 1.5 acres. And you're putting this humongous building on 1.5 acres. And as everybody said, there's not enough parking. So, this is a 4-story building. Basically, there are no 4-story buildings I've seen in Middlebury, in the town, maybe in the college. And there are images here of the apartment building between Creek Road and Middle Road. They showed the underground parking, so it looked like it was 4 stories. But basically, the main floor on that apartment building, it's only 3 floors. There are no 4-story buildings on this side of town. And the same with Marble Works. The parking's underneath. It's 3 stories. Also, I'd like to say that, where am I? Stonecrop Meadows is a planned community, and it's off the main road. There's streets and sidewalks on the community, and it becomes a neighborhood. And the apartment buildings between Creek Road and Middle Road, they're kind of like a neighborhood. They have their own streets, they have their own sidewalks, it's quiet there, there's not a lot of traffic. That picture's so misleading because there's traffic there all the time. The only time you see no traffic is in the night. So it's lacking any community space. It's not a neighborhood. And I think this building is going to be mostly filled with transient people. You know, there's not enough parking space, and it has no extra space around it. It's just gigantic. I think people are going to want to leave soon after being there because it's not a neighborhood. What else do I have to say? I can't remember. Well, we're a rural town, and I'd hate to go this direction because it feels like we're going to go into an inner city building. Before you know it, there might be a big building where the Citizens Bank is, and they're too close to the roads. So that's about all I have to say.
Thank you, Suzanne.
You're sleepy. Got an extra two there.
Yes, there you go.
Pass one on. Thank you.
Thanks. Please make sure JR gets one.
Good evening, DDR board and members, Chairman Hamilton. My name is Mark Mooney. I'm a resident of 275 Woodland Park, which is in a development that's not part of the nearby this particular building. My pitch today is to give you a sense of a long-term resident connection with Middlebury, because I think it's important for the board to know and think about how this project is appropriate and responsible for Middlebury. While I know two of the board members, most of us in the room, I'm sure, probably don't know each other that well. But Middlebury, for me, has been a journey. I came here as a 10-year-old boy to watch basketball at Middlebury College. And that was an exciting event for a kid from Pittsburgh, Vermont, 25 miles down the road. And it was my first connection with the town of Middlebury. And I watched basketball at the field house, which is the same court that's used today for the college. And there were two very outstanding players, one named Sonny Dennis and another Tom Hart. And that was the beginning of a continuing connection. I came again, that was in 1953 and 54. I came again in 1955 to watch my brother Ted, who was a basketball and baseball player at Middlebury College. And then later, in 1950, during the same period, 1957, my team from Pittsburgh, Vermont came up and won the American Legion 8th grade title. So I started to have a view about what Middlebury was from a limited perspective, but it was exciting for me at that time. And then it was passed off in 1961 when, as a member of the Pittsburgh Panther basketball team, I and my players won the state championship here at the field house at Middlebury College. And little did I know that that connection was going to continue at that time or during those years. But lo and behold, was that the enough of a connection with Middlebury? No. In 1965, prior to graduating from Caston State College, I had been offered and accepted a teaching position at the 7th and 8th grade junior high at MUHS, and have continued to live with my family in Middlebury for the last 60 years, and have gotten to know Middlebury as a community that is definitely has strong a sense of volunteerism like yourselves, which is one of the key factors, I think, that makes Middlebury special. Your volunteers who are ensuring that us as residents of Middlebury have representation in the government and how we decide issues like you're deciding on this project. It's so important. Middlebury is extraordinary in its volunteer effort across the board. And I've noted that obviously since those early days and to present. And I've tried to be a participant in Middlebury's life, because it is a special place to live. And anytime I've been away from Middlebury and talk to people and they hear about Middlebury, of course, often they'll associate with Middlebury College, but they said, that's a really nice town. And I agree. And in that effort, what I've seen is responsible and appropriate development. Responsible and appropriate development, where the community gets a chance to give input, and it's, I believe you and all the board members that I have seen over the years accept that as very important in their decision making. Very important. Because it gives a sense of what we want to be as a community and a vision that I think makes Middlebury special. So if you're processing this application, I just feel that that's a key factor, that the responsibility for appropriate and responsible development is the bottom line. Because we're a small town, let's really acknowledge that, but we're a very active and involved town, which makes it as special as I've mentioned. And for the opportunities and the people who come here, I think really value the quality of life that they experience here. And that's what I've noted. So in my 53 years of teaching at Middlebury Union High School, and the students I worked with, I felt very positive about that experience and how this town has been special. And what you're considering tonight is a critical decision. And I would like to note this statement. In all of my 60 years as a resident of Middlebury, I have not witnessed a proposed development that's such an anomaly for Middlebury. Such an anomaly. Nothing like it. It's too big on an undersized lot. Bottom line, it doesn't fit. And once it's approved, it's there forever. And I really think and hope that you as the board members will, with all due respect, to acknowledge Mr. Rosenwig's appropriate and right to make a proposal. He simply, however, his proposal And this location shatters the norms for Middlebury. Shatters the norms. It's too big, it's inappropriate, it doesn't meet the vision on the short or long term for what Middlebury has been and wants to continue to be. So I hope you will clearly, I strongly recommend, after careful review and discernment, that discernment is so important, because that is getting to another level of examining this project. You have to look at the details carefully, and I know you will do that, and I hope you will clearly reject this proposal as it's been presented. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. I just want to take a moment. This gentleman's raised his hand. Are you open to come and speak?
Yes.
Yeah, please. While you're coming up, I just want to make a point that I'm human. I'm a proud resident of Middlebury. I'm not going to stop the teacher with the 53 years in service from telling us how great our town is, because I agree with every bit of it about our town. But please do try to keep your comments towards the review criteria and the project at hand, so that we can get more people able to say what they think tonight. And I do not mean that to tell you that I don't appreciate hearing you tell me about how good my town is, because I agree with it. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Bill Biederman, and I live at the end of South Street across from Eastview. So this project isn't going to affect me at all, okay? I'm retired, and I have children who would actually like to live around here. They can't afford it, okay? If you are putting in a facility that is encouraging walking and biking, every car that doesn't have to be financed and supported by a person who moves in there, that's $10,000 a year that's in their pocket, okay? That's what it costs. That's what it costs to drive now, all right?
You bet.
And you can put part of that money towards an increased rent. There are businesses all over that area and all over town that people can walk to, they can ride a bike to, schools, doctor's office, dentist's office, you name it. I'm not going to make everybody happy here, but I think it's the kind of thing that we actually have to look at, because it's actually an area where it could fit if we fix the problems on Route 7. If we fix the problems on Middle Road, we have to take a look at the traffic on Route 7, because that's screwed up all the way through town. Okay? The afternoon, at that point, it's a nightmare. But we have to address that. That doesn't mean you say no to this. Okay? I'm also on the Career Center board, and we need more students in town. We need young families who want to move here, who would like to educate their kids here. We are aging out. And if we don't put in housing for young people to come in, to be able to walk to a job, be able to walk to school, to walk to the grocery store, people can walk up to G-Stone Motors and work for G-Stone. They can do things like that. But we have to take a look at the future. I love the town, but I'm retired and I still look a lot younger than most of our residents, okay? So I know I'm not making people happy, I know it may not affect me at all, but I think we need to take a really hard look at this, because it's what we need to do for the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
The chance to give everyone some comments.
Thank you. He's absent.
Okay.
He's in all right.
For your convenience. Thank you. Okay, my name is Rick Nadia. I'm president of the Homeowners Association of Fields Road. Our board of directors has not currently taken a official position on this, but Fields Road is in very close proximity. It's actually 50 yards. The entrance to Fields Road is about 50 yards from the edge of the parking end of this project. Now, that's why our homeowners are concerned about the project. 80% of Fields Road households are opposed to the project. This was done in an email and phone poll in the last few days. One household is in favor. 12 households were strongly opposed. 4 other households had no opinion. And the project was, and 2 did not respond to this morning's deadline. Okay? The project was revealed to homeowners only in an email last Wednesday, and I only got to see some of it on Monday of last week, the first. The no opinion households said that they did not have time to evaluate the project and had not studied the issues. Now, I would add that all of the Fields Road households strongly support building more apartments in Middlebury. And most of our homeowners favor some apartment building on this site. Our homeowners' objections to this particular building are to this particular building and on this site, and not based on NIMBY kind of ideas. Okay? The first evaluation I have is the project is poorly designed. The architecture is fine, but the question is, what is the lot going to look like and what is the parcel going to look like? Both Lot 1 and Lot 2 should be considered as one architectural unit. The project lacks architectural unity. First, the building is squeezed only onto Lot 2, that's been said before. It's too big for that lot. It will loom over the dollar store. The building is separated by most of the parking by an ugly green industrial building, and that's why it doesn't have any architectural unity. The combination of these two buildings doesn't work, it's ugly. And the building site in very close proximity to the dollar store makes the combination even uglier. The project lacks space for adequate landscaping, although there is some, and that's been added, that's very good. But also, the fact that there's too little landscaping around it is a problem. Another issue is that there is no 20% set aside for affordable housing. This was promised in the initial proposal and has been dropped in the current plan. The restaurant is completely unnecessary. It does not address the apartment and housing shortage, and a bad location for a restaurant, sort of off to the side, and we'll have other problems that I'll talk about in a minute, okay? Now, the expected residents of the building, it looks like most of the apartments will be shared by multiple occupants, or many of them. These include porter nurses coming from outside Middlebury. It's unlikely that those nurses will want to share an apartment. Middlebury College students, or perhaps another group. Their renting would not address the housing shortage because the town has no real responsibility to provide housing at the expense of residents to Middlebury College students. That's the college's problem. Okay? Now the parking issues, I'll just add a few points to the parking issues. 1 parking space is assigned for each apartment, and that's completely inadequate. Most multiple residents will have 1 car each. Porter nurses work different shifts and will come and go at different times. Nurses will not want to leave their cars at Porter Hospital. Middlebury College students have different class schedules and will come and go at different times and will not want to leave their cars at the college. Couples and spouses in the apartments will have separate jobs and will require separate parking spaces and have different hours as well. Now, the parking spaces allotted to the restaurant would be unnecessary restaurant. There is no parking provision for takeout customers. Restaurant customers, especially takeout, will compete with apartment residents for parking during peak restaurant hours, which is going to be for dinner. There are no parking spaces for building and restaurant staff and people working in the building, and the service people coming in, electricians and plumbers and everything else. Okay. Now, of course, there are 10 overflow parking spaces, but that is inadequate for all the use, and we haven't even talked about visitors will compete also with those spaces, especially on the holidays. Okay. The question is, the other question is, how can the building parking restrictions be really strictly enforced? Okay, we're told they're strictly enforced, okay. Many cars are liable to be parking illegally, since there are so few spaces, in the small Hannaford lot, on Middle Road North, in the Vermont Orthodontist lot, on the shoulders, even on the shoulders of Middle Road North, as far south as maybe Deerfield Lane, and is right past Fields Road. And the town is going, okay, if enforcement can come with towing, of course, and that will happen. After people decide, after the fights are over, well, who gets the official car and the official spot of different residents. Okay. Enforcement took 24/7 is going to be very difficult even with towing, and the town's going to have to deal with a lot of illegal parking. This seems to be inevitable to me because of the small number of actual spots. Now, as for bicycle use, the assumption that many residents will use bicycles, or an overwhelming number will use bicycles, I think is unrealistic. A few porter nurses will use them, some do, a few. Some, but not all, Middlebury college students might use them. Bicycles can certainly not be used in weather like this, in snow and ice and rainstorms and so forth. They can't be used easily for grocery shopping, and of course, there are no provisions on Route 7 for bicycles that are safe. I do not think riding a bicycle on Route 7 is really a viable thing or a safety thing. It's a safety issue. Now, the other question about whether Middlebury is a walkable town. Well, a lot of town locations are not in walking distance, in fact. The average adult walking speed is 3 miles an hour. I drove to various points in town at exactly 24 miles an hour on a Saturday morning when there was no traffic. It took me 6 or 7 minutes by car from the building parking exit to Shaw's, Porter Hospital, Jessica's, Rosie's Restaurant, Middlebury College campus, and other locations. Now, walking takes 8 times longer, 24 miles an hour, as opposed to 3, which means you're talking about 45 to 50 minutes to get to those walkable locations. And walking is fine, it's a great idea, it's great that you have bicycles, provisions, you want to encourage as much walking around. Walking is great for people, and you want to have as much of how much bicycle use as possible too, if that is feasible, okay? But it can't be done on rainy and snowy weather, okay? Now the congestion issues I think have already been addressed, but keep in mind that the only route to Southridge north to Route 7 is the 2-lane Middle Road North. Has to be clear for emergency vehicles in the afternoons on school days and the mornings on school days. There's back-to-back traffic all the way. If you go there around 3:15 or 3:30, for at least a half an hour, there's back-to-back traffic right to the light, okay? Now, there's also an exit to, the primary exit for the buildings uses directly onto Middle Road North, okay? Right ahead of the traffic light. It's also true for building residents, building staff, restaurant staff, Good Point Electronics, customers and staff, and service personnel working on the building directly. Now, of course, they have some access going out through the Stewart store. There's an exit from the Stewart shop directly onto Middle Road North at the same place, right near the traffic light, but making a left turn, and I know this from where Jolly's used to be with getting gas, making a left turn onto Route North going north, as opposed to going south, is actually problematic at times and difficult at times. That would mean that Stewart customers are likely to pass through the easement to Middle Road North which adds to the Middle Road north traffic. Okay, we're also talking about essentially the restaurant traffic as well, especially the takeout restaurant group, if that's included. So in the crunching hours, we're going to have a lot of situations, and of course the traffic light also has multiple different feeds, and the green light times are very short, so congestion is an issue. Now I think the water and runoff and wetland issue, water runoff and wetland issues were addressed. I'm concerned about that as the Fields Road owner. Also, Fields Road owns the wetlands, and in fact pays to maintain the wetlands. In fact, so if in the event of serious rain, and we had flooding rain, for example, at the end of July, in the middle of July of 2023, and my basement was flooded. The question, and the water table was consistently high for a long time after that. The question is I can't evaluate the adequacy of the drainage situation, but this is a major concern for Fields Road, and it's also true that wetlands tend to build up and become less useful for runoff water designed to go to Creek Road, which is what that Fields Road wetland does. And it's very important to have it. Now, what I think the development review board should do is first allow apartment building on this site on a smaller scale, better suited to the entire space, and a combined lot 1 and 2. That should include demolishing the green industrial building. This would include adequate landscaping and could be a very attractive addition to our community. As I stated, most of Fields Road homeowners favor housing development on this site. And in fact, so that's generally what I have to say. I think I put this, my notes are actually been distributed to you, so you can look at those as well.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to...
I think we're running so late now. I can only keep these dedicated volunteers here to the extent that they consent to that. So I just want to take a moment before we continue the public comment to ask if there are members want to continue. I mean, we clearly have a lot of people who still want to speak on this topic. I've been loath to limit people to a short, 2 or 3 minutes. And I think what people have to say is, they want to say a lot. So if we were to continue, what I understand is that our next meeting is scheduled for the 22nd. I don't know how many of you that gets into the holidays and you're not around. I will be here.
I'll be here.
I'll be here.
I'll be on Zoom.
You'll be on Zoom, so we can achieve a quorum. I just, I don't think, it looks to me as the chair on tonight's project that this is not something where we're going to exhaust everything that everybody wants to say on the topic in one night.
Could we take a straw poll and just see how many people want to talk?
Yeah.
Still
It'd
tonight?
be great to get through.
Yeah, it would be nice if you could raise your hand high if you still absolutely want to talk tonight. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8. So, of the people who are holding their hands high, if we were to extend this with a real 3-minute limit on it, where I actually stand up and say, "Come on." I was just in a public hearing as an applicant with somebody who literally had a little boggle timer from the beginning. So I don't want to do that. I think this is important that we hear from you. But if I could ask you to keep it to 3 minutes, then we'll try to get through the next 8 people. And so we can get through public comment tonight. I still think we'll continue probably for deliberation, but I don't know. That would be up to you. All right, next up, please.
This this lady over here has been trying to speak.
Oh, that's okay, Laura can go first.
That's okay.
Do you wanna go first? No.
No, it doesn't matter because it's only 3 minutes now. Right? Everyone gets to speak.
Thank you for your service, DRB. I'm Laura Cermoli, a longtime resident, a champion, of course, of biking and walking to school, which we've been talking about tonight. And I want to thank my neighbors for their well-informed and concerned comments. And I just want to add that what we see with Middlebury Safe Routes is a trend, and hopefully a growing trend, toward alternatives to single car use, and even families going to one-car families and supplementing that with a bicycle, so not the entire family. So I just want to say that we see more of that, like more fathers with cargo bikes escorting their kids to school. We see it. And we do think that this location is ideal for that kind of renter. And I think, Bill, I would echo a lot of what you said, so I'm not going to repeat that. And I would also say that renters are going to be self-selecting, because they're going to know those limits. And we already see that in other locations. This is not the only apartment complex that has limited parking that has to be managed. The new apartments over by the co-op are like that. Otterside Apartments has 1 spot per apartment, so it gets managed and it gets self-selected. People know that they're going to have parking limits, so I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. What an exemplary, succinct comment. Hi.
Hi, my name is Emily Blistine. My other option was a school board meeting, and that might be going on.
Can you say your name again?
Emily Blistine. I moved into South Ridge Drive when I was pregnant with my now nearly 15-year-old. There were 5 houses when I moved in. I raised 3 boys there. I was a business owner, a downtown business owner. I have worked in a lot of fields adjacent to economic development, so the idea of bringing more housing is not just important to me for bringing more housing, but it impacts our, access to childcare, access to jobs, our ability to grow our businesses. I think this is so crucial, and I think we can all start from that shared value of we want more housing, which is exciting to have something we can agree on. I live in what was called the model home in Southridge for a long time, and so I can tell you that in that time, that neighborhood has sprung up, and the neighborhoods around us have sprung up too. I seem to hold a minority opinion among my neighbors, and I'd like to just explain as briefly as possible why. I believe in density. From everything I understand, building apartments in a place where people can walk is really important. It also keeps us from being a community like South Burlington or like Williston, where there's just these sprawling, endless developments. We have a little bit of a sprawling development, and it's lovely, but I don't want a ton of those. I think it goes without saying that we're hearing from a pretty homogenous group of folks tonight. We're not hearing from people who want to walk and bike downtown. We're not hearing from people who can't find 2- and 3-bedroom apartments because when they look, there's about 10 of them available, if that. And we're also not hearing from people who have lost employees because their employees couldn't find housing, but those stories are out there endlessly. I saw this apartment building when you did the first phase. I'm surprised to be impressed with the focus on the materials that you're using and the way you've responded to some of the concerns that neighbors had. I have a middle school student now, and the idea that an organization or a business is actually looking at a place that they would be inviting people to walk through, that's, everybody is a keep off my lawn to middle schoolers. It's exciting to think that they would have a corridor from Mums to Stewart's, which is the most popular destination for every middle school student right now. I have concerns like everybody about traffic. That is 187 days a year at 3:15 to about 3:45 p.m. That is an issue that deeply needs to be addressed in this town. I don't think it has much to do with this, honestly. In the time that I have lived in this neighborhood, approximately 40 to 60 homes have been built. All of them impacted traffic. Many of them made decisions about their homes, the sizes, the scope, that have impacted my view. I'm glad all of them are here. That's what living in community is about, is having a diversity of people with a diversity of opinions. I think I'm a lifelong Vermonter. I think at best, Vermont can be a wonderful place with well-intentioned people. It also tends to be a closed community that pulls the ladder up behind itself. And I really see that happening with the comments that I've heard. There's always a reason that it shouldn't be in my backyard. And I think we have to ask ourselves, when we have that initial knee-jerk reaction, if this was on the other side of town, would I think it was a good idea? And if it is, then it's probably a good idea. And that's what being in community is sometimes having things that I would choose a lot of different things for my neighbors, trust me, and I'm sure they would choose different things about me, but that's not what being in community is. I would just close, I think, by saying that I'm a middle school student. I have an older stepson who's home working at the middle school, substitute teaching. They both rode their bikes to school today. There's a community of people out here that want this kind of intentional development, and I hope that we will be a community that supports that kind of thing rather than finds all the reasons against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
I'd like to say something. Okay, I'm Marion D'Angelo. I live in Southridge. I live in Southridge neighborhood, and I think that the building has great potential in terms of its materials and its idea. However, if you're driving along Middle Road and you want to turn, you cannot see the traffic. That's a big building. I'm sorry, but you cannot have that. It's a danger. And when people are trying to turn, I just saw an accident just the other day, and someone was trying to go into the Stewart's in the dollar store, the old dollar store entrance. And then there was another car that was coming around, and it was had an accident and that area is so congested. It will too. You are not looking in the future. That's the problem. Everybody gets all excited about something. Think about drilling for oil so we can, fuel our cars. Yeah, whatever. Think about all these great things, but when are you going to think about the future and the consequences that it could pose? That's the problem. It's not that we don't want this to be built. It should be built somewhere else. But if you want to have housing, have housing. Just not this high. Not this obstruction. It's such an obstruction. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Marianne.
Hello, board members. My name is Alex Armani Munn. I am the executive director of the Addison County Economic Development Corporation. I'm also one of more than 5,500 people who commute to work every day in Addison County from outside the county. So I myself live in South Burlington, but work on Route 7, just south of the project site. So I will do my absolute best to be succinct, which is rare for me, but I'm going to give it a shot. So I want to start just with the kind of practical aspects of this project by first looking at the current use of this site. From a community economic development perspective, this current use generates limited property tax revenue, no sales tax revenue, no jobs, no homes, no public activity or activation, and has very limited environmental benefit. So I think it's safe to say, if anything, this is more of a public liability under its current use. Under the future proposed use, it generates significant new property tax revenue, new sales tax revenue, creates new jobs, new homes, improves stormwater management, lowers cost burden for existing water and sewer users. And what are we giving up to achieve these benefits? Setback waiver that meets current zoning, but not the existing PUD conditions. I think it's 15 feet. Seems like a small price to pay. And then a floor waiver for a building that otherwise meets height restrictions. So based purely on that, this kind of seems like a no-brainer to me. I don't think the discussion really needs to go beyond that, but given that we've addressed some of the complexities and nuances of this, I do want to take a moment to really speak on behalf of the folks who are not represented tonight. And the first population I'll speak to is the business population. In my role as executive director of ACDC, I've met with approximately 200 businesses and nonprofits throughout Addison County since starting the position in February. It's probably a little higher than that, and a good number of those are here in Middlebury. I would say of all those meetings, 100% expressed to me the dire need we have for housing, and 0% complained to me about traffic or parking. And again, those folks are not here tonight, but I can guarantee you the number of people I've spoken to who would strongly support this project far outnumbers the number of people I've heard tonight who oppose it. So again, really just want to speak to those people who I hear day in and day out are desperate for housing. And it's really a workforce development issue, so some numbers, some data I want to share with you. As I mentioned before, I'm one of more than 5,500 people who commute into the county to work right now. That's 40% of the workforce here in Addison County has to commute from outside the county. At the same time, our population of folks living in Addison County with jobs, that's over 16,000 people, 50% of those commute outside the county to work. So we only have about 8,000 people who are able to live and work in Addison County, and that's a big problem, and a trend we need to reverse. A more, concerning statistic is that if you look at our prime working age population here in Addison County, that's people between the ages of 25 and 64. Of that prime working age population, 34% is over the age of 60. I think that cohort and the cohorts above them are well represented tonight. The population that's not well represented is who's going to take those people's place in the workforce. And I think some of the speakers before me did a great job really alluding to those potential residents, those future workers who are not represented here tonight. I don't want to speculate on their lifestyles or their preferences, but I think it's important that we give those folks the option to live in our community, and that's what this project does. Another thing I really want to speak to, and I've been working in community and economic development for over 10 years in communities from 1,500 people to over 500,000 people. And Ms. Bennett did make a good point earlier that this decision will have long-term implications. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that we've created the expectations for what we want in development, and this site and this project checks all those boxes and meets those expectations. To move the goalposts now to deny these waivers based on concerns around parking or traffic creates a level of unpredictability that next person who comes along, that person who's out there right now thinking about doing a housing project here, who wants to develop affordable housing here, is going to look at this and say, I can't rely on the expectations set by this community, I can't rely on the process or the predictability. That's not a risk I want to take. We have a responsibility as a community to be a good partner, a proactive partner, to not only set our expectations, which we've done through the zoning and the planning and the NDA designation that's done in this site, but to also honor those expectations. I think that's really important. My job is to support businesses, to help businesses start, grow, and thrive in Addison County. The most important way I can do that right now is by supporting new housing. And after this project, I hope to support more new housing in Addison County. And if this project is, again, denied on some of the grounds I've heard tonight, that's going to make my job extremely difficult. And years from now, we'll wonder why that housing hasn't materialized, and it'll be tied to that approach. So again, I think it's important that we set our expectations, we honor those expectations, and we be a good partner in this process. So I hope that wasn't too long. I'm happy to answer any questions about my role, but thank you again.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Alex.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Van Dyne, and I live in the Southridge community. Thank you, first of all, to you, Phil, and to the integrated architectural team for building such a phenomenal structure. Thank you for caring about our environment and keeping that in mind. My purpose of coming up here tonight is a couple of reasons. One, affordability. I think it is so vital that we offer affordable housing within our community, and that is something that has been vital and of value here in Middlebury that we've touted. And unfortunately, when this was first proposed, that I believe was on the table, and it no longer is. And I think that is something that we should maintain to be of value if we want to have an apartment building within our community, that it needs to offer affordable housing so that we can bring in a more diverse population of people into this community who might rely on that. My second thing is I do not agree that this upholds the architectural integrity and cohesion of aesthetic architecture within our community. If you look at other buildings, and I know this has been brought up already, buildings within the area like the Courtyard Marriott Hotel, the National Bank of Middlebury, South Village Apartments, the apartments at 428, even Stonecrop Meadows, even the Stewarts, all have sloping roofs, all have a certain aesthetic quality that's very cohesive to other buildings within this community of Middlebury. Whereas this structure is very incongruous to the other buildings, and I do think that it comes off as a little overwhelming and oppressive on its current location because of its high scale. So I would encourage a building of this sort, a mixed use. I'm all about having a restaurant there. I think it should be on the front side of the building because I want people to see it. So I'm okay with the mixed use. I just think that the structure is too high and we ought to look at modifying it so that it does match the rest of the architecture within the community. Lastly, I am one of those people who bike and walk a lot of places, as do my sons, who also bike to school today despite the snow. But I do have to say realistically, I also am in a family that has 2 cars and we're a 4 family. So I do echo that the parking, I just still don't think is quite sufficient for the people who are going to live there, even people like myself who love to bike and walk as much as we possibly can within this street. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Being with Scott, Middlebury, Vermont. I'm not eloquent like the three or four speakers that preceded me, so I apologize. I've got some notes. I've been busy at work, so I haven't had time to prepare something really polished. I've just got some notes here. I will apologize if I come across as pointed in some of my comments. I get emotional, and this is something I feel strongly about. This is the perfect spot for housing. You can walk to all the schools. You can walk to many employers. That will alleviate traffic. I'm not an expert in this, but it seems like some kind of cognitive dissonance here where we're concerned about parking. There's not enough parking. Parking implies cars, more cars. We need more parking, more cars. But then we're concerned about traffic. Families aren't going to rent this if they have 2 or 3 or 5 vehicles. They'll have to go somewhere else. If you have 1 vehicle or 0 vehicles, which is not uncommon, might not be the norm, but there's certainly 35 households somewhere that only have 1 vehicle. You're going to rent this. If you have 5 vehicles, you won't rent this. So this is actually potentially going to alleviate traffic. We didn't touch upon this, but this isn't infringing upon any wildlife habitat. Go farther out Middle Road, big houses on big lots, like an acre, over the hill, Glen Meadow, I think, that's infringing on wildlife habitat. This is not. I think that's surprising it hasn't got brought up, but that's important to me, at least. And this is where I get maybe a touch pointed, but is there no sympathy for the hundreds and hundreds of people that desperately are searching for housing? Like, honestly, ask yourself how it would feel to be in unstable rental housing or trying to find a house. That's the reality for lots of people. So we have housing, we might be taking that for granted. Commuting 45 minutes to work, maybe even further. That's the reality for hundreds, thousands of people. So, I mean, this is an excellent opportunity to alleviate that, and I think we sometimes maybe take that for granted. Reading through the town plan, it's chock full of these lofty goals of infill development, walkable development, building dense neighborhoods. I printed out some excerpts. I'm not going to even go there, but it's the town plan on the website is all about this. I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know, but just kind of bringing that up to everybody. So now is the opportunity. One thing I will say, again, touch pointed perhaps, but going to another meeting so that more people can talk. I've been to a lot of these DRB meetings, and you guys do a great job. You know, development is complicated, especially in Vermont, but there's a tendency to just let's table this and go to another meeting, but that costs you. We're worried about affordability. That costs these guys money. They don't want to be here. These developers changing the aesthetics of it. I mean, everybody has different opinions, but changing the aesthetics of it would drive the cost up. So we're worried about affordability, but we don't like the way it looks. And let's go to another meeting so that more people, that's gonna add to the cost. And I really, this gentleman here spoke to that, but for developers, we need 40,000 housing units in Vermont. This sets a bad precedent, uncertainty. So don't do what you gotta do. If you need more information, go to another meeting, but hopefully don't just kick the can down the road. And you guys do a good job. I've got some experience here. I know you aren't frivolous, but that's my point. Just don't let it go too long. That's costly. I'll wrap it up. One thing, there was one minor mention of it. I can't believe this didn't get to be more of a topic, but the taxes are just out of control at this point. I've changed my opinion on this, but over the past 5 years, my taxes have gone up to a very uncomfortable point, and this is what we need. We need help paying taxes here. I think there's a couple parts of the equation that we can work on, but we need a bigger tax base. You got it right here. Our population is stagnating. We're losing students. My son plays hockey. There's not enough kids to field the team. We're actually commuting to Rutland. Rutland has been welcoming. We're carpooling to the best we can, but we don't even have enough kids to field a team here. And that's, I don't know if everybody knows that, but that's concerning. That relates to taxes too. We already went there. So I'll wrap it up. Let's just step back and think, is this really the image that we want for Middlebury right now? Is that these new projects are going to get nitpicked and shot down because we've got what we've got and we don't want anybody else infringing. We want housing, but somewhere else. That's not the right image. Concern, asking questions, showing up is good, but I am concerned just the overarching message is detrimental. So I fully support this development.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Janet Cornacci. I live on Cottage Lane in Middlebury. And I'm not going to belabor any points that other people had spoken about, one of them being parking. I think we have talked that to death. Couple things. I'm in Nurse at Porter Medical Center here in town. I interviewed 16 travel nurses. A conversation I had with Phil back in April when we first met, he was convinced that travel nurses would be more than willing to be renting at this apartment building. Of the 16, all of them said no except for one. These nurses stated reasons such as they don't want to share a bathroom with other people, they don't want to share a kitchen with other people, they don't want to share space with other people. They also said they would not walk to work. Then they asked me, what would I do with my car? If there's only one parking spot and it's a 4-bedroom apartment, what do I do with my car? Travel nurses come to this destination with their car because they need their car. They're here for 13 weeks. And I just want to comment on the apartment building. Do we need housing? Absolutely, we need housing, but not this housing. It would be great. You can put housing on that lot, that would be great, but put a building that belongs there, that is within the vernacular of the town of Vermont here. That is not. This is modern. It looks like South Burlington. And the last thing I want to say is, don't Jersey, Vermont.
Thank you, Johnny. So I think we're close to getting through our 8 people. Yeah, please.
Very brief back.
Sure, please. Yeah.
My name is Lynn Gilmore and I live at the residence at Otter Creek. I own my own home there. What you're considering here are apples and oranges. Is it the DRV's responsibility to provide housing in spite of the tremendous need, and there is a tremendous need? What we're really talking about is just this building and its appropriateness. That's the job. No parking, it's too big, it's squished in, it looks like an octopus in a jar, for the heaven's sakes. It's just not appropriate for the place that it is. But we're not saying that we don't need housing, it's just where to put it. Thanks.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yes. Okay. Very quick.
In regards to the building itself, Rocco Comanche, I'm the Cottage Lane. Where are the kids gonna play? I'm assuming there's going to be children that are going to be in these apartments. Is there a green space for kids to play? Secondly, where are people gonna walk their dogs? I'm assuming that people in these apartments are gonna have pets and animals. The third thing, a restaurant sounds nice. There are 4 vacant stores in Hannaford's complex. There are 3 vacant stores in the Kinney Drug Complex. We're going to put a restaurant there when there's other areas where restaurants could go. I think putting housing there is a great idea if it was scaled down to a manageable size. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rocco. Anybody else like to add a public comment? So, JR, do you think that there are any key public comments in the pile that you've got that you that you want to make sure that?
I guess I just wanted to name them for the record. But it's either yay or nay essentially.
And they'll be included in the public record. Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me. That's all that was taken from those comments. It's a yes or a no. There was some really strong points in some of those.
Losing Gary.
So we're losing our. We're gonna take a short break, please. We just gotta take a 3 or 4 minute break, folks. So when I come back, Please let the DRB members by you to take their seats again. It's late. And we're back to if we're ready to start. know our mics are still hot. Are we recording? All right, we're back in session. I'll ask everybody to please settle. So I'm going to conclude public comment for tonight's meeting. And I ask the board, what is your pleasure? We've had fun to ask the applicant things. We could, as I see it, our choices are that we could go into deliberative session and discuss if we can make a decision tonight. You could put out a motion either for or against, given the information you have. We could continue if you have additional information that you want to ask of the applicants, for example. We could actually call our applicants back. We have them all here and address a couple of these questions to them if you have things that have come up in the last hour. So what is your, or we could decide that this meeting needs more time and has to go to the 22nd, which is the next date certain.
I move we go to deliberative session.
I will second that.
So Gary's moved to go to deliberative session. We have a second from Jeremy. Is there any discussion on that motion?
Nope.
Okay.
Do we need to vote on it?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And none opposed. So, folks, the deliberative session is where we ask everyone to clear the room so we can talk about the testimony we've heard. Did you have a point of order?
A question, Mr. Chair. By going into deliberative session, are you closing the hearing?
That's a great question. I think we keep the hearing.
Close the hearing first and then go into deliberative session.
Oh, I apologize. It's a little late. And now we have voted to do it.
Well, you can just do it over. You can close the hearing and then.
So I did not realize that was that we were doing both things. I thought that we were maintaining the hearing open and going into deliberative session.
Well, I think we have in the past because we've come back out and asked. Of course, that's with a much shorter hearing than tonight, so maybe that is the proper thing, is just to close it and yeah.
We have to reopen it to.
If we ask a question.
To continue it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. That has been the problem. We have kept it open and gone into deliberative.
I withdraw my motion.
Withdraw the motion? Yeah. It's already on the table and it's passed, actually.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know how to correct this.
Constitutional crisis going on.
I don't want to cause a constitutional crisis, but I guess I should have asked for that.
At deliberative session.
What's that?
You can vote to come out with no action.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, somebody knows what's going on. Any motion?
I'll make a motion to come out of deliberative session.
Second. The U-turn motion has been made and seconded by Jeremy and Gary. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Okay.
We're back in the open hearing from the...
I believe we close the hearing.
You move we close the hearing.
I will second.
And Jeremy seconds. Any discussion on that motion? My only discussion is I will say this is somewhat consequential in that if we were to want to come bring somebody back and ask them something, we would have to reopen.
And rewarn.
And rewarn for how long?
2 weeks, right?
2 weeks.
If we don't open it back up and move to continue to a certain date, date certain, we need to do that to get it for the 22nd.
So can we? I mean, when we come out of deliberative session, we want to announce what we've done, right?
But that's typically what we do.
But if the hearing's not.
Can we do that without reopening the hearing?
Yeah, and who would we announce that to?
Right, that's why we keep it open.
That's why we've always kept it open. So maybe the point is to move it to a date certain.
How long do we come in and out of?
How long do we have? How many days do we have?
If we close the hearing and keep it closed, it needs to be rewarned for 15 days, which would take us into January. If we can come in and out of deliberative, we should be able to come in and out of reopen it and then move it to a date certain or move it to a date certain now.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we go into deliberative session and then reopen the hearing if we have any issues, or we, yeah.
Or we open to continue?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sorry I'm not an expert on this, I guess I should be, but yeah. I thought that the way that we did it worked, and I don't know what's different this time. But, so now do we need to move to go into deliberative session?
Yes.
All right. You want to just make the same team motion?
Yes, because we've done that and we've closed it. Yes, so now I'll make a motion to move into deliberative session.
Sure. So moved and seconded. Any discussion on the deliberative motion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. So now, we're in deliberative session. If we were to take action, we would come back out into open session. And I'll just say that deliberative session, the point of this for those who have come to attend is that we can talk about what we've heard, look very closely against our criteria, and craft any conditions if we were to make a decision. That's what we do. We don't make decisions inside deliberative. But I'll ask everyone to clear the room so we can deliberate. Thank you for your participation tonight.